afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Photography Academy and today's Live at Lunch Wedding Workflow Live webinar. Part 1, this is the first of 4 days, and each day we're going to be going through Mark's wedding workflow process. Without further ado, I do believe I've got Mark waiting in the wings. So Mark, are you there with us, mate?
Thanks very much, Jay. Basically, we've got a kind of full 35-minute kind of program planned here for you. It's one of the most requested things that I get when I'm doing workshops, when I'm doing tours, or even actually events that I'm at to actually speak at, is kind of how you can get your lives back when you're involved with, obviously, with weddings and things, really. And the reason I think the biggest problem with weddings is because there's so many different images, there's so many different locations, there's so much of different exposures from inside to out, color balance, as far as actually multiple different kind of photographs shot within seconds of each other, some where your flashes have gone off, some where they haven't, and I mean all the kind of the nightmares that you want actually as a photographer, even if you're a pretty good photographer in consistency and exposure with it. A wedding is a real kind of test of actually where it kind of can all go wrong. So what I'm doing over the course of this week, as we've promised, we've been nagged about it all year, we're going to go through a real wedding live, as it were, in edit and so on, and each of the days is split into 4 different kind of tasks, including on Friday we're going to be designing a wedding album from scratch and actually finish it before the actual end of the session as well, with it to show you how simple it is in my workflow. One of the most difficult things, though, I think, is the editing and the colouring of the photographs. So I've split it over today and tomorrow. Today we're going to be looking at the editing, we're going to be looking at numbering, we're going to be looking at metadata, which is of course a part of the copyright thing as well with it. So that's what we're going to cover in today's session. We're recording this, so if you need it a little bit slower, Jay will try and get up onto the website within the next 2 or 3 days for you anyway, so watch out for that space anyway with it. So today is all about the edit, as I was saying to you. Okay, so before we get into the real wedding, let's just kind of talk about it in a kind of a basic way. Here's my pretty kind of folders that I just made up minutes before we went live, just so you can kind of get a visual of what we're going to be doing. We're not going to be downloading the cards from the camera or from the kind of the card itself. I've already done that, okay, but as a rule, I literally take the cards out of their kind of the cases and I download them via my card reader, which is basically on my desktop here, instead of actually plugging a camera in and actually downloading from there. I've always tried to minimize any problems in any loop, and that's why I think we have less problems than many kind of mistake-wise than actually other photographers have and so on with it, is because we are trying to do it in the simplest way and not trying to actually kind of cheat death, as it were, playing a bit of a risky game. So I'll usually shoot anywhere between 600 to 1200 images on a wedding, even more with Greek and kind of Asian weddings where it could go into the thousands. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be given a whole stack of cards left here, and that each one has to be downloaded onto the hard drive. So when we're working on the hard drive itself, once card 1 is downloaded, I'll then start to edit that card 1 straight away. But in the background, in fact, card 2 is beginning to download. And I haven't got a multi-stack card reader or anything. It's a one reader at a time, again minimizing the problems. That's all I'm trying to do. But while card 2 is downloading, I was saying, then I'm basically going to start to edit card 1 fully, and by the time I finish card 1, I know card 2 will have fully downloaded itself, and so on and so on. Now, my cards are not in any specific number or order at all, as you'll see in a minute. It's basically just as they come out of the bag, and then I'll kind of just start with them and I'll download them and so on and so on. Now, I shoot a JPEG and a RAW file, and the JPEG is basically just kind of a part of the backup, but it's also kind of the look and the feel at times that I want the images to be like, black and white or whatever it be. And so I need to separate those out. So that's the first thing I'm going to be doing as soon as we go into card 1, is separating the JPEG from the RAW files. Very, very simple to do, and move it into a new folder. And that takes around about probably a minute as far as all the processor speed and everything else. Once that's done, I'll then actually start to edit the RAW file itself. Now, as far as numbering, renaming, and everything else is concerned, I'm going to be doing that right at the end when we've kind of merged all the files together. And the reason that we'll be doing that is obviously to make sure we're going to merge all the photographs in the right time, because I'm using a minimum of 2 cameras on the wedding itself, and I'll be interchanging lenses going through that, so it means there's a kind of a mix going on there, especially if I haven't time synced the cards and so on with it. So that's a kind of a simple graphic view of what we're going to be doing. So it is going to be image selection, then we're going to be renaming the images, we're going to create in the metadata, and then obviously a part of that we're going to be looking at the copyright issues as well with it. So let's go into Bridge. Sorry, I muted myself. I know some of you are using Lightroom and everything else. I use Bridge, which is part of Photoshop. It's camera raw kind of basics as well with it. They'll all work in a similar way, okay? So, but I'm sure what you'll be able to get from today is how simple this is. Now remember, Bridge is a part of Photoshop, so you don't have to pay any extra for this at all. It's a part of it, and it kind of allows you to work with files through the different programs and so on and so on with it. So as you can see on my desktop here, I've basically got 5 cards. And they're just been numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as they're coming in. Obviously with more cards there'd be more folders and so on and so on. At this stage, before I even go into card 1, remember as I was saying to you, card 2 would have been beginning to download at this stage, and I'd be going into card 1 to fully edit the files. But before I do that, I want to make a new folder up. So just on the top here, I'm just going to click onto the top right at the right hand side, create a new folder. And I'm just going to put in here, it's JPEG from camera. And I'm just going to stick this with an X on the end, because that will obviously come last in any folder kind of by file name or whatever it would be and so on with it. So whilst I'm here, once that's updated the cache, there's nothing in there, so it won't take very long. Now what I'm going to do is create a new window. So I'm just going to File, and then I'm going to New Window. So basically I'm going to have 2 windows open on Bridge, as you can see here, but I'm literally just going to collapse that one down, so it's just actually going to disappear. And at this point, he says, I need the other one back again. I'm going to click into JPEG from camera, then collapse it down. So let's go into card 1. And this is a great little wedding. We didn't film it for the Photographer Academy, sorry about that, but it's a cracking little wedding from a couple of months back. And as you can see here, what I've got basically down on the bottom left-hand side, you might not be able to see it, but it says 984 items. But that isn't 984 images. It's basically, if we look on the filter part here on the top left side now, which is here. You can see my mouse there, I hope, Jay. It says 492 raw files and 492 JPEG files. As I said to you, the first thing I want to do is separate these out, and I have to do this with each card. So I just click onto the JPEG file, and then I can select onto one of the images. Then I Control A to select all of those images, or Command A on a Mac. And then what I do is right-click on the mouse, and I go to the drop-down menu, which is Move To, and then I want to put them into the XJPEG from camera, and I've left that window open, as you can see, so it's kind of there all the time. As it's the last one I've used, it's up on the top here as well, but it just makes it nice and easy for me to find straight away. So that's where we're going to actually move all those JPEG files across. As I said, that's going to take around about a minute, and it's not copying them, it's moving the files out of the folder. Now, as soon as they've moved across, in fact, even though we're talking about proofing and uploading in tomorrow's session, I believe, it would be at this stage that I would already be, while this first one's moving across, I'd be going into my SmugMug my website, and I'd be creating a new folder in my JPEG from camera folder, as it were, which is not accessible by anybody, they can't see it, but I would go in there and make a new folder up for this client, and I would actually be starting to upload those images, and that's my kind of backup up, I should say, straight off-site, even before I kind of do anything else with it. So again, we're missing that out today, but it would be a part. Anybody wants me to show you what I'm on about before we finish, then I'll kind of show that you anyway. Right, so I've got 492 images which are raw files here. I've not done anything to them at all. As you can see, there's no kind of marks on them to actually show they've had adjustments made. So this is all of the photographs. Next thing I want to do is separate the good from the bad. Now, it depends on how many images you're going to kind of want to keep and how many images you're going to want to lose. Now, with my weddings, I work in a lossy way. So in other words, I'm looking to choose the photographs that I don't want. I find that's quicker for me than it is to actually keep the images. So look at the images that I definitely want to keep, because I'll go through this kind of twice and so on with it. Jay's going to give me the heads up on time and things really as we're running through, so at least I know actually that we can kind of complete the task at hand. So the first thing I'm going to do is just going to press my space bar, and in Bridge, when I hit the space bar, I get the the slideshow view here, and just using the keyboard, I'm going to be selecting just using the up and down arrow. If I just kind of point my webcam down for a minute, so you can kind of see here, basically all I'm going to be using are these keys. So this is my right arrow to go to the next image, this is my left arrow to go back one. The same up and down arrows will actually work in a slightly different way, in fact, really, but we're going to be just using the left and right arrows here. I'm also going to be using the numeric 6 to press images that I don't want, and that's going to add a red tag. So if I press the numeric 6, obviously you can only see what I'm kind of referring to there. If you've got my webcam, it won't be shown on the recording of this, of course. So if I hit the numeric 6, you can now see on the bottom left-hand side of the screen there's a red tag, and the whole point of that is to kind of delete, it's actually a visual for me to say, look, I don't want this photograph at all with it. Why do I not want this photograph? Well, when I'm editing images, I'm really looking for expression. That's the key thing. That's going to be the big seller. And then I'm going to be looking at how creative is this image, or how sellable is this image? Does it tell a story? Is it part of a collection? Those are all things in those kind of milliseconds going through my brains, one brain, that is actually trying to make that kind of decision the factor with it. So as I said, using the left and right arrows to actually move back and forth with it, and just pressing the numeric 6. So again, I'm just looking at the little girl's expression in the middle. Eyes look a little bit closed, and a little bit kind of strange on the expression. I'm not sure how fast you can see my screen change here, but I'm going to work at real speed, and Jay's going to have to just give me a bit of a heads up really if I'm just going too fast. So again, just kind of flicking through the images. Now we're looking at the ones on the bed of the little girl, just actually holding the camera up in the air, looking down on them. There's a few little kind of shots here, and I'm just going back and forth to select the images again that I want. And the secret is less is more the whole time. If I show the client too many photographs, there's basically there's too much choice, and that's what I want to make sure. If I'm unsure, I'll leave it in for now, and I'll get rid of it on the second edit. Not a massive fan of this little girl with her hands on her face on the left-hand side here, so I'll delete those out for a second. It's quite cute, better expression there. So I'll keep 2 of those in for a minute, lose that one. So I'm just flicking back and forth through the photographs to kind of decide on the images that I want to lose. Now, if you're a plus photographer, in other words, you're just going to select the images that are going to work in the plus way, then all I'll be doing is actually just selecting the photographs by pressing either my 3-star or my 5-star to actually keep the images. But I guess as you can see here, I'm just flicking back and through the images in real time, just trying to decide on what images we're going to keep and lose. So anything with a red tag is basically going to be lost in a minute. So just go through that. Okay. So just going through now a little bit more of the reportage. I'm just getting ready for where the girls are going to put on their shoes. I've asked them here to go over and actually put their shoes on over in this area for a minute, allowing a little bit more of a daylight kind of usage. Just a few little shots, that's all. I'm looking for details. So even though I'm photographing quite a lot of them, I really want them to actually kind of tell a tale. So on in with the bride's room, and again just getting rid of the obvious at times. It depends on how much time we've got and how it's all running to kind of decide on how many images we're actually going to be showing. So I'm just adding a little bit more in. So I'm going to delete that, keep that one. Okay, and just go back to it again. Jay, any questions there a minute while I'm going through it? Because I'm going to just start to edit now in real time.
Well, I've got some sort of generic questions with regards to like timescales after the, with regard to the workflow. So if you want to, I'll start with, there's a few here. So how long before the bride after the wedding sees the images typically?
We're looking for them to actually be proofed ready for them as soon as they get back from honeymoon. Even if they're not going away for, say, a week, we tend to kind of make sure that in that case, if they want to see them before they go away, then of course we'll get them ready for them. Otherwise, it's by the time they get back from honeymoon.
Okay, following on from that, how long before you require the final choice from your client?
The clients have got a year, up to a year, to choose their own photographs to go into the album itself. Because they're paying me fully in advance, I'm absolutely in no rush to go to print because they basically paid for everything. The only benefit, of course, is the upgrading, and basically, the further away from the wedding, the more chance they are to upgrade with more and more images naturally by themselves. We do actually proof all our images online, so it means that there's no interaction from us at all. We are going to be talking about different methods of proofing and sales when we get into Business Live next year and so on with it. So it's not one for all. It's just actually how it's best for you. And just basically, I've just lost track while I'm editing, Jay. Can you just repeat the question for me again?
The question was, how long do you require the final images from your client?
Yeah, so it's a year. Sorry.
Do you do a draft wedding album?
We proof the wedding album to the client. One of the things that I think I'm going to be showing you on Friday, well, I know I'm going to be showing you, it's how quick it is to do, really does allow you, even if you're a very, very busy photographer, to actually mock up a bigger album than perhaps was originally bought. And that's a great way to naturally upgrade and things, really. The software that we're going to be using to create the album in, I'm going to show you a Photoshop way to begin with, but then I'm going to show you the software that I now use, and it'll just give you a kind of an idea of how fast you can actually produce an album in proofing for the client, so it's not going to actually kind of take you days and days to actually go in there and then adjust and so on to it.
Okay. Why do you use discard version instead of stars?
Because at this stage I'm really looking to do the hard edit on photographs to get rid of photographs I don't want the bride to see. So I know that I'm going to be losing probably a big chunk of the wedding now. So it's kind of just going. I had a little bit of problem with my flash on this day, in fact, really. So again, there's a little bit of an issue going on with my on camera flash. So you can see actually there's 3 or 4 kind of images of the same shot, and all I want to do is actually show the bride the one best image. So again, for me, it's just a quicker way to work through than actually going through a kind of a way where you're actually kind of plussing into the images. We all work in our own ways, but again, what I'm trying to do, and I'm talking as I'm going, so that's why I'm a little bit slower than normal. But I'm trying to be as honest as I can in my workflow here for you, so at least you can see about how we're choosing images and what we'd be kind of making that selection. And if you want, tomorrow, just before we get live, or before we actually go through the kind of the next stage and so on, we'll talk about perhaps image selection, why one's best than another, and so on with it. Does that explain it, Jay?
Yeah, I think so, mate. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. Do you want me to keep going with questions, or?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. Yeah, as long as you don't mind. I'm running probably about 30% slower on these images, even though the bride is proofed fully. I'm trying to be as honest as I can to you, so you can actually see what is going on.
So the images that we're marking as red, as the ones we aren't keeping, are they deleted or are they kept separate for? And if so, for how long?
They will be deleted fully.
Sorry.
The images that I'm marking as red will be deleted fully.
Brilliant. Okay. Obviously, we're doing the edit here. They're somebody generally asking, do you use Lightroom at all? I know that we don't, but
yeah, I don't. Again, it's not something that I've used. I'm planning to actually learn it for next year as well. We use it. You see me using it in demonstration when I'm photographing straight to the laptop and things, really. But it's not something, as I said, that I use in a general practice.
Okay, brilliant. Roughly, approximately, how many images do you normally end up with that you're going to show the client?
Yeah, Only as many as the client needs to see. Does that make sense? In other words, I'm really just trying to actually give the client the best image experience that they can without thinking that I've got to show them all the photographs. So, the ones I'm doing here now with the little girl and the bride by the car, I mean, there's a lovely little series of images there, but do I really need to show more than 2 or 3 of them? 3 is a maximum in my rule book. Why? Because basically, it's the same as selling. 3 is a magic number. So if I'm looking to actually put a series of images together, then I know that 3 is going to work and things really. And this little cow on the left-hand side keeps looking away all the time and not giving me much expression, so I'm having to actually kind of be quite drastic on that. So anyway, go on, Jake.
Okay, well, a few questions coming through. People must have missed the beginning, but they're asking us what software you're using, and people are saying, is it Lightroom, is it Aperture, is it this? So if you can just tell them again what you're editing with.
Yeah, this is just Bridge, guys, which is a part of Photoshop. It's free to, with Photoshop users and so on with it. I'm basically just in slideshow mode. This is the bride's car, by the way, here that we're on. I'm not sure if you caught up with me now, actually, with what's going on, but again, I've just arrived in at the church, so I need, obviously, the best images going through. I'm just trying to tell a story straight away, just so you get an idea of what we're actually doing at the church now. Great expression there from the groom. So it's Bridge.
Brilliant. Okay.
And we're in the slideshow mode.
Okay, the questions are coming through fast and furious. So I know we're going to be touching on this later in the week, but we referred to viewing online. So you can just briefly tell people how we view our images to our clients online.
Yep, we're going to be using SmugMug. That's how I actually proof out to my clients, and we'll be doing it from scratch. Which day is that, Jay? Do you know?
I think we're on Thursday for that one, mate.
Okay, Jay will double check on that anyway, but
I'm almost certain it's Thursday.
Brilliant. Okay, so we'll be doing that live as well. He hasn't crashed into the bank there, by the way, if you're just caught up with that image. Just actually spinning it around. So again, what it was, the groom had arrived there, and I wanted to actually do some kind of images coming in the car, because it is the bride's car, and just wanted to make sure that we had some images, and as I said, he'd already arrived. But you can see how many images there are. And at this stage, if you were just kind of narrow down to, let's say, 200 or 300 photographs, then probably working in the plus way would be the best way for you. As I'm looking to actually give them a little bit more variety than that, I tend to, as I said, work in the kind of the deletion way. But again, it's really down to you. Next, Jake.
Somebody's asking, do our clients have to have an album, or are there other options? I know we're going to be covering this more in Business Live, but obviously,
yeah.
Just to give an idea of what we offer, I suppose.
Yeah, we offer packages or service, so it depends on the client, but we'll be covering that in Business Live.
Well, I know the answer to this question, but somebody's asking at what part of the process do we do the color balancing? Well, that's the next bit, isn't it, after what we do today? So I know we're covering it tomorrow. But
we're going to be doing that tomorrow. The reason that we've separated it out was so that I could make sure that you guys could see the step-by-step process the whole way through, and that we weren't trying to actually fake anything up for you. Again, one of the biggest problems that we kind of hear from photographers is how much time is being wasted just in the edit part. So I wanted to show you within about 4 or 5 minutes. And again, I can't believe how slow I am here. I'm purposely being slow as well, because I know your screen takes a little bit of a while to catch up with me. But I'm also, as I said, doing questions as we're going, so again, that's my excuse. But around about 3 to 4 minutes per card as a rule is enough for the edit process.
So I'm having a question here about, obviously, because we're working at quite a speed, and I know you do work at quite a speed. When you're checking the focus of the image, do you have is your screen at 100% on your end?
I can go to 100% here by just clicking in to the image, and that will actually kind of recache it. Okay, but I don't need to do that at that stage. The only real time I do that is when we're looking at groups. So again, that's just a personal kind of way anyway, kind of thing with it. So
what percentage of a wedding typically is traditional portraiture / as opposed to the documentary style of photograph?
Yeah, this is a kind of a mixture wedding that we're seeing here, and you're seeing pretty much the kind of the more setup images. The other camera is a little bit more of the documentary, and actually when we get into perhaps card 2, we'll start to actually see how that works and things really. So I'm usually a 50-50 split anyway, to be honest.
With regards to flash on a wedding day, do you have any preferred modifiers?
Bounce card.
Brilliant. Okay, this is a good one. I think we'll probably maybe touching this possibly tomorrow when we look at the image correction and stuff. You get to the wedding day and the bride has lost an awful lot of weight. Do costs of Photoshop time change, or do you just have to swallow that and do the work?
Yeah, we do charge £25 per image if they want any real Photoshop work done to the photograph. And that's just because if we don't do that, a bride will actually just completely take the mickey out of us, and they'll want more and more stuff done and everything else with it. So we always charge a fee no matter what.
So obviously somebody's asking that they've prepped in advance with the bride and groom and they've asked for certain kind of shots. You've taken a specific shot they want, but it's ended up in your deleted file. Would it not go in your deleted file if you remember it's a shot that they want?
It wouldn't, because really the only shots that I'm deleting here, as you can see, there's 2 or 3 of pretty much everything in the different kind of style, because I'm kind of working a little bit more kind of relaxed here. So I'm allowing her to walk towards me. There's no kind of staticness going on. I'm not telling her to stop. So I'm just flicking between the 2 or 3 there to actually decide which one I want. As I said, I'm trying to actually work in that real thing for you. So there's nothing going to go amiss that, when we're at group levels, obviously we need to make sure that we've got one of each of the requested groups now. But because I'm editing my own wedding, like all our photographers would have edited their own weddings, never a shot would have been missed anyway, kind of thing with it. And remember, I've always got that backup JPEG file, so just in case I ever did make an absolute serious cock-up, and I'm touching wood at this level, you can see it on the webcam. So if I did make a mistake at all, then obviously I've got that the JPEG from the JPEG from camera that is stored off-site anyway, kind of thing with it.
So, well, I think you've already answered the question, because they wouldn't actually see the images, but a couple of people asked, have you had any grief from clients for not seeing the rejects? But obviously they wouldn't be aware of it, I'm guessing.
They'll never know, because once we edit them out, we rename them that we're going to be doing, they'll never actually see that there were images missing. And if they do say anything, I'll just say, look, you had such a bad blink, or the expressions were so bad that we couldn't show them. It was pointless showing it to you. And again, remember, they're booking me because they believe I'm a top dog. They believe that I actually know what I'm doing. And after 30-odd years of doing weddings, you think I would, and I think I do. However, it's this kind of amount that they're kind of paying me kind of makes them realise that, in fact, I am worth my salt. So they're not going to question a lot of things that we're doing. Trouble is, if you're just dealing with, the £300-400 clients, which I hope you're not, but if you are, the biggest problem with that is that you'll probably get more grief from that range than you will anything else.
What size of card do you shoot with?
We've got a mixture of 8, 16s, 32s. Again, they're just there. Obviously, I need double the amount of cards on a wedding that I'm going to need, as a rule, because I'm shooting, quite a lot of images on so many weddings. Sorry about bells going off there. Ignore that. Basically, I forgot where we're at now. I need double the amount of cards, no matter what. Should we have a problem or whatever it would be, to make sure. Sorry, just going through here again. So it just makes sure that we've kind of got ourselves covered, really. So you can see what we're doing. This is quite a biggish card, and we want to, at least a third of the wedding is actually on here, if not more, in fact. So we're doing a massive edit at this stage. You might not realize it, but we are. So going back, we're still getting the questions about delete. Have you backed up all the images before you start deleting? No. Because they're still on a card.
I know we're going to be covering this is the next bit, but somebody's just asking now, when you import the images, when do you add the metadata and profiles?
I add them when they've actually all merged together, and we're going to be renaming files and things. This is a classic. Have you got the bride and groom in the door at the doorway on your screen now?
Yes.
This is a specially requested image. This is not an image that I'd usually shoot, but in fact the groom, his mum and dad, and his grandparents got for their wedding. I didn't do them, but they had their wedding in the same church. And this was a specially requested image that they had to have done no matter what with it. So again, it's not a thing that I would usually do as a rule, but again, it's a special requested shot, so do it.
Somebody just asked if you can reiterate what you meant by editing in a plus or a minus way.
Okay, I'm adding the tags to take out images, which means that we'll probably be left with a lot more photographs. Hence, we're going to deal with a second edit, guaranteed, and that is when I can work in a little bit slower, so I can actually then look at, do I prefer this image or this image, and it just gives me that little bit more of kind of a second chance. So even though you may think I'm deleting out a lot of photographs, sorry, the eyes are shut, they're on the right hand side. Terrible expression on the left. So I've got to go back and keep one of the others. So I'm actually scanning through all of these images anyway, I promise you. Did that answer where we're at, Jay? Sorry, I just lost distraction when I was trying to edit.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I know, again, we're going to be covering this tomorrow, but somebody's just asking, with your color adjustments, do you do those in Bridge also?
Camera Raw, yeah, you'll see that live. Remember, everything that I'm going to be doing over the next 2 or 3 days, except for the album design, which is obviously in a specialist software, you'll be able to use in some way. I'm either going to go through the first 15 minutes of album design in Photoshop for you, so you can see how I used to design it before I actually used the new software. This is the little girl, the bride and groom's little girl, by the way. So that's why there's quite a lot of photographs of her at the church, because I know she's either going to get tired, pull off her dress, or actually go to sleep, or cause chaos by the time we get to the house later on.
I think somebody just missed.
Okay, we're there. Just for a minute, Jay. Sorry about that. So if we look at the top left-hand side here, in fact, I've deleted 298 images, or I'm about to delete 298 images, and I've got 194 images left. So those are the ones I'm going to keep. So all I need to do at this stage is click on to the select, in other words, the red here. It's named by Bridge as select. In fact, it's not named by me. I would just hit Control-A to select all those red files. And then all I want to do is delete all those files fully. And you're going to go, oh my God, I can't believe he's doing that without backup. Again, step by step, your workflow, understand it fully. You'll become confident with it. The worst comes to the worst. If you're not ready to delete files like I just did, don't delete files. Put those edited files into another folder out of the way. And if it's better for you, then you always work in that way, okay? I don't work in that way, but as I've said to you, you know, whenever we're doing big Photoshop classes and everything else with it, I try and show you an honest workflow that I'm doing all the time than trying to actually please everybody, because then you basically don't end up with a real workflow with it. So at that stage, I've finished with card 1. And I would move straight on to card 2. Now remember, if you just joined us, at this stage, card 2 would have finished the download, and before I go into downloading card 3, I would quickly double-click into card 2, and I would see the amount of images that were in there. In this case, it's showing me 992 photographs. I would check on the card that there was also 992 images. When we know that is the same, I can then eject that card. Once I've ejected that card, before I start to edit this second card here, I would start to download card 3. So in other words, as one is being downloaded, I then go and start to edit the folder that was before. So just going in here, this is the next one. So again, in exactly the same way, you can see we've got the RAW and the JPEG files here. It's just taking a little bit of time. So I'm going to grab all the JPEG files once more, right-click, move to. That other folder that I put in place was the JPEGs from camera. Anything else, Jay?
Yes, we've got more questions. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. I thought you were getting back.
How are we doing on time?
We're at 20 to 2 now.
Okay. This, by the way, would take me an hour and a half to do the whole wedding. So, I'm not sure what time we began, Jay. Was it 10
About
past?
10 past, yeah.
I think I got into the edit stage at 15 minutes past. So we're basically into the kind of the first kind of half of the wedding edit at this stage with it. But as I said, no matter what, whether we're not going to edit all the other folders as well, I'll go and find another folder we can merge to kind of show where we're going. So anyway, we're into card 2 edit, and it could be anything. It just happens to be the follow-on from the last card. That's pure luck. In exactly the same way, I'm going back from Bridge into the slideshow mode here, and I'm just going to once more click on images that I don't want. Okay, Jay, I'm yours again.
Okay, so when these are things we're covering later in the week. But when proofing the images, what size image do you show the client?
The benefit that we have with SmugMug, in fact, is I don't need to resize images. They're basically, they resize them on our behalf on the site. I can choose on the site at what size I'm allowing them the maximum to view at, if that makes sense.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay.
You see in here as well that I'm focusing in on key characters. Yeah, groom's dad, bride's sister's boyfriend, who I've got the wedding for next year as well already. Always nice that. And actually then focusing in on the key people. So this is one of my other brides from years ago. In fact, she's behind me. How cool is that? I've just realised. I'm not sure if you can see that. We just put that up the other day. In fact. Anyway, shut up, Mark. Go on, Jay, I'm yours again.
Why RAW over JPEG?
Why? I'm not even going to discuss it. Honest to goodness, I'm not going to discuss it. If you are a wedding photographer and you have got balls of steel and you're going to just shoot a JPEG file, then go ahead. You know what? I'm a film photographer of years ago, and we never had the option to go in there and tweak exposure perfectly, and that's the option that I have with a RAW file nowadays. I'm sorry to be hard on that, but that's basically what it is. I mean, you're still going to have to go through an edit. You're still going to have to go through color. You're still going to have to go through the rename with it. Everything that we're doing here, you're going to be doing with a JPEG file of some kind, unless you do not care about the images that you are putting in front of the bride and groom. And again, I care, and I want the bride and groom to actually get the maximum out of it, of course, really. So whether I've made a slight error, the flash has pushed out a bit too much on it, perhaps the color balance has changed because it's a winter wedding and things, really, I'm doing everything in my power to give them as near to a perfect image of that image as possible. And again, that's why I shoot a RAW file, just so I can go in and just tweak a file.
At what stage do you wipe the card and reuse it? Do you keep using new cards for each wedding?
New cards for each wedding? No. It would be reused. The only thing, if this was, say, a Friday wedding, which I think it was, in fact, I wouldn't be using these cards on the Saturday wedding. Because obviously, even though I didn't do the first dance or the meal with these, we actually finished off at the just before they sat down to eat. Basically, I wouldn't actually risk that. I'd want all the files fully developed and actually up online before I did a wipe of the card.
Just as a quick reminder, a couple again must be late joiners, but we're just a reminder that you're editing within Bridge at the moment, isn't it? Yeah, brilliant. Okay, do you, again, we're going to be covering this, this is actually in tomorrow's session with regards to effects, but do you ever combine images to create effects and expressions on people's faces?
I'll move people's expressions from one shot to another, yes, if I need to.
My edit ratio is normally 15% on a full day's wedding, and I tend to get around 800 images after the edit. Is that too many?
No.
Fair enough.
It's as many as you want it to be, isn't it? If they're 800 but they're all similar photographs, then yes, it is. If they're 800 images that are pretty much all different with it, then I would say no, that's absolutely bang on with it. I think it's a lot of images for a bride and groom to actually proof at, to be honest. But again, that's just down to a personal thing.
You just touched on this one already, but somebody just asked a similar question before. If I've got a load of group shots and people have their eyes closed, that you would tend to look at maybe swapping expressions and faces. So that's just a reiteration of that one. Where are you downloading the images to? Are you using an external drive or an internal drive?
No, for now this is onto an internal drive.
How much editing of the images do you do before you proof to the client?
What we're doing now.
So cards are numbered and used on a wedding day. So your cards are numbered and used in order on a wedding day, is that correct?
No, they're not. They're just as they go in, and again, that's one of the random things to make sure that there's never overusage of cards. So they're kind of actually making sure they're just randomization. Obviously, if we ever had a problem with a card, then it would just come straight out of the mix straight away and tested.
Somebody is saying that they respect the fact that I'm not going to use his words, but you have large ones for the way that you delete your images, but respect at the same time. That's made me laugh, sorry.
Say again, sorry?
It was a compliment to how brave you are with your edit, but I can't word it the way that he's worded it as part of the webinar, but he says respect to how harsh you are with your edit. How many, we do that after... So somebody's saying no Photoshop at all. No, that's not what we said, was it? That we don't do.
No.
No.
We will be doing a little bit of Photoshop if we have to, but that's if we have to. Yeah, it's not as a part of the kind of the standardization. I think tomorrow. Are we into edit and color tomorrow? Sorry,
yes.
Color.
Tomorrow.
When we're into the color tomorrow, probably for many of you, that's the part you're going to enjoy more than actually watching a real edit, kind of actually being the good, the bad, the ugly, as it were. But it's the colouring and the kind of little precise little effects that we're doing to them in RAW is the part that is going to really make a difference.
Again, just reiterating that we will be covering this later in the week and also our Business Live program next year. But with regards to proofing, do we only proof online or do we also do the proof books that Loxley offer?
Yeah, bride and grooms pay for a proof book if they want it. We charge it proof price plus 50% and VAT and delivery.
How long do we keep the images after a wedding? I think they're asking with regards to after the customers had their final album or package.
Yeah, as soon as they've had the final album from us, the images would have been moved, so the RAW files would have then been moved off to a RAW storage. That's just actually on drives, but they're converted into a DNG file away from the RAW file, so they just reduces in size just a little bit. Plus, in fact, we reduce the DNG physical size of the image as well to actually save even more space. But remember, everything is basically stored as a JPEG file. Obviously, they're processed and fully finished anyway.
Again, a lot of questions that are obviously going to unfold as the week goes on with ourselves, but this gentleman's just saying that he processes all of his images before he even shows them to the client. Is he wasting time, and should he change his methods?
Can you explain that?
Well, I think he's saying that he's processing them, finishing them, full finish before they even proof to the client. But again, it's a brief sentence. He's asking if he's spending too much time on it.
I think it could also depend, Jay, on how much of a niche product you are. If you're selling your services as a kind of quite a niche photographer, a very stylized look, you will definitely have to post-produce all of your photographs. Why? Because basically you're not going to be able to do it in camera. Things like cross-processing or kind of vintage styling, monochrome, very strong looks, whatever it would be. Those are all the things that you really need to obviously kind of do in the post-edit and the post-production. So as far as the kind of the look and feel, then yes, if you are somebody who does have a very, very strong dynamic look with it, you're going to have to do that no matter what. but otherwise, no, I think you should be actually proofing to a very good level, and then if you've got to, final finish.
I think we might have slightly just confused, because obviously part of the workflow process is going to fall over into tomorrow. So with regards to our edit now, they're not just seeing what we're choosing. The customer won't be just seeing what Mark chooses today. Obviously, we'll also be showing you then, before they see them, the color correction and any effects, and also the cropping. We're going to do that tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah, correct.
So no, it's not just a crop who's asked the question. There is more to it than what we're just doing now. Do you use a second shooter, or are you shooting the whole wedding by yourself typically?
Traditionally, I shoot the whole wedding myself. If anybody wants to come out on any weddings with me at any stage, as long as you're a Photographer Academy member, you just actually request it. And if we're looking for a second shooter, just to come out and get experience, you're welcome to. You can't use any of the images yourself, but you're welcome to. We don't actually sell a second shooter on the wedding. In fact, there was a wedding. I'm not sure when it's coming live, but there was a wedding that we did actually just a couple of months ago that we did actually employ a second shooter, because we needed somebody at the groom's home where the groom was getting ready to actually do the work with. But again, that's a whole different discussion. But they're just paid for actually a few hours of being there.
Again, I think we've added to the confusion a little bit. People are thinking that we're not editing the images, we're just doing a deletion process before the client sees them. That's not the case. As today and tomorrow unfolds, you'll see the edit process that Mark is doing before the client. We're actually going to get to proofing on Thursday, so you'll see where we've got to through today and tomorrow, ready for the client to proof. So there is an edit done. They're not seeing just a deleted selection, the undeleted selection of images. What's the biggest mistake you find photographers make with an edit? Is there too many of the same image, or not enough storytelling?
Too many of the same images, too much flash being used traditionally, and so it's too many of the same shot. Too much flash being used, and basically, sorry, I'm losing track of what I'm trying to edit. Say the question again, Jay.
What's the biggest mistake that the photographer might make in the edit? Is it too many of the same shot, or not enough storytelling?
I think it's a bit of everything, to be honest. As I said, when you're into I'm a group photographer. We're into it now, in fact, what we're doing here. I'm a group photographer on a wedding. Let's not fake it in any other way, whether you want to or not. One of the most important parts of any wedding is the people that are there. And you might not like to actually do groups because you haven't got the confidence or whatever it would be. But again, what I'm really being paid for is to record the event, and that event includes kind of groups and kind of people that are special to them. And as far as the biggest mistake that I would say that some photographers could make, perhaps especially in the early days, is that they think that you can just actually run around and capture a wedding and actually you just end up with some kind of great kind of informal candid images. But in fact, to really tell the true story of a day and to actually have a lasting memory of it is to actually make sure the people that are special to the bride and groom are being photographed in the best way that they can, of course, to make sure that you've got a kind of a real representation of the people. So it's just not about the storytelling element. It's just not about kind of reportage for me. It's a kind of a mixture. Remember, I've been shooting weddings since I was 16, and there is a little bit of an old-fashioned in me, but going through the process for the first time myself this year, when one of our sons got married, again for us one of the most important parts was the people who were there, those special people. And if anything, what was missing was a few extra groups that we'd specifically asked for, but in fact the bride and groom hadn't asked the photographer for. And if we could look back, it would be a disappointment on what we were missing as far as those kind of special groups were concerned. Debbie and I with our special friends, even there wasn't a shot with myself and my boys. There was a shot with my wife and the boys, but not myself and the boys and things really. And again, as a photographer, I totally believe I have a responsibility to the storytelling and to the documentary element of the wedding, and that just doesn't mean just sticking a wide-angle lens on and actually kind of running around the place, because that's what I do as well. But as I said, I'm a family photographer, I'm a group photographer as well. I would make sure as best as I can that I get a great kind of representation to the whole wedding, the people that are there.
Mate, I still have questions coming through, but I just want to give you sort of a time heads up as well, because we're at 1:55 now.
Okay, I think I'm almost at the end of this card. So can you just give me a minute just to finish doing the deletion? And you can see I'm using a bit of bounce flash here. We're working against the light. I always kind of shoot, as a rule, with backlight coming towards us, and then I'll actually kind of just bounce it in a little bit with a kind of a kick flash, just to kind of give us that little bit more of a kind of the detail in the shadow. That's a perfect example. I'm not sure if you can see it now, but that's with a little bit of bounce flash going in, and then this is without the bounce flash there. And obviously the contrast would be too high without any flash coming through to actually really be able to actually get a good printable image with it.
Still ready for questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're getting a few now about the shooting of the wedding. Are you shooting automatic or manual? I know the answer, but you need to know.
Manual. Every single shot is manual. That's why the exposures are so similar. If there is 2 or 3 images that perhaps are slightly out in exposure, it's because either a flash hasn't gone off, and I'm just using it as fill-in flash, in fact, really, but the flash is in an automatic mode, whereas the exposure is in manual mode. So all these photographs that I'm doing here, in fact, are all the same exposure, because, you know, there's the same light coming through. When the light dips back a little bit, then I've just got the second exposure coming in. So in fact, even though it might seem difficult for you to actually work in manual mode, once you get into your kind of real habits and style, you can pretty much actually kind of guarantee the results no matter what.
Still shooting questions then with regards to the day. How many bodies do you typically take out, and your favourite lenses for a wedding?
I tend to use the 2 main lenses, 70-200 lens, 24-105. Then I have a 50mm prime and an 85mm and a 100 macro. Have you ever turned down a wedding because you feel that the bride and groom wanted too much control, or they wanted a style that was not something that you did? Yes, of course. And if I don't like them.
Fair enough. We normally suggest that we'll do around 20 group photographs. Is that about right? And is it fair to say no if they want more?
I wouldn't be booking you as my wedding photographer then.
Sorry, maybe I've misread the question to you then. We've always suggested around 20 group photographs, but other photographers have said this is too many. What is your average? Sorry, I've read it wrong.
Listen to the client.
Yeah.
But you know, if you were saying that to me, I wouldn't be booking you as my wedding photographer. Put it like that. Does that help you, Jay? Sorry, I just...
Yeah. How do you deal with guests and their cameras who try to shoot you over your shoulder?
Just try and be better than they are. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, Christ, if I'm worried about... Sorry, I shouldn't have sworn that. If I'm worried about the quality, you know, put it this, I think a guest can shoot a better photograph on their iPhone than some photographers that I see. You know, and again, it's about trying to kind of balance everything together and make it work for the best you can, and posing and quality and everything. Look, we're going to run out of time. We've run out of time almost, haven't we? I need to get to the other parts. So I'm going to have to jump out of this, which is a real shame, because I was very, very close to the end there. Oh, look at that. I'm 3 shots away from the end. Let me go on a minute. And these were actually groups asked for as well, these ones that we're just seeing here and things. Let me just go through that again. 6, keep it. Lose it. Okay. Right, Jake, go. So once more, Control A, selecting those, delete those images, hit and delete, and they're gone.
Well, I'm racing through the questions, so we've almost caught up. How do you...
Right. I'm going to stop you for a minute, Jay. Sorry about that. And we're going to actually start to merge the files, okay? Because we're a little bit behind. If you want, I can stop now, and we'll kind of do the rest tomorrow. I'll kind of edit it through anyway, but I really want to go through all the colouring live tomorrow and everything else. These are being deleted at present. So let me just Control A those again and delete them. They should have been gone by now. Oh, cancel, they've gone. All right, so I need to just talk about this. So as I was saying to you before, these are our kind of files that we've got going here, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just going to create a new folder now, and this is going to be raw choice. So I'm going to create a new window once more. And shrink that back down, and go back into card 1. Now, as a rule, I would have gone through these in a second edit. Can you see these? We've basically got lots of shots of the girls on the bed. We've got 3 very, very similar photographs here and so on with it, and there's far too many. If I just go to Control B for a minute, actually, there's far too many there. There's 1 or 2 maximum, and so really what I'm looking to do is actually just choose the best shot, and I'm going to have to choose 2, these two, so that means that image is going to be gone. Then as far as the girls on the bed are concerned, I'm just looking to actually lose some more. So this is more what I would class as my second edit. I'm not in close at this stage. Remember, I can just kind of push these up in file size as far as the look and visual is concerned. Not file size, in the visual I'm seeing on screen here. And I can actually just go through them once more to actually start to delete down. And I think you get an idea of what we're doing here now. Because what I've got to look at is actually I've got to have a balance of black and white and colours and everything else with it. My black and white tends to be very, very close, or it's going to be a kind of a close-up shot. So very, very close or very distant, a wide angle element and so on. There's 2 shots of the baby here, even though it's theirs. Obviously, I want to kind of just kind of show them a few with it. That's cute, that's not as cute. And that's the way that I would work. So I would just once more, just kind of, once I've done through all those, click on those, delete them. Or if I'm at all worried at that stage, those would have gone into a not selected folder. So if you're in second edit, you could be doing it in that way. Right, so we're here. Let's go Control A. Let's move all these now. So I want to move these to what is the raw choice. That's going to take, again, less than a minute to actually move across. And once that's done, I wanted to show you the merging of the images and rearranging them and things, really. Perhaps I will do that a little bit in the first start of tomorrow, Jay, if you make a note of that for me, please.
Somebody has asked if we just show them the renaming process.
Yeah, I'm going to do that now anyway, but I'll kind of reiterate it again tomorrow. So I'm back into folder 2 now. That's where we edit that one. I want to move 2 and push it into that raw choice again. So remember recording these guys anyway, so it'll work a little bit slower for you actually in the refresh. Jay will get it up on the site as quick as we can, and what I'll try and do is actually make some proper Photoshop films on workflow in the new year for you as well. So what have I got there? If we just kind of just go and find the bridge video that I just had. Let's go down here. So this is the raw choice. So that's what we're looking at now, all the photographs that we have here. But of course you can see there's still too many of the same shot here, and that's really what I'd need to do the second edit for. But for now, we'll just say that we have re-edited and everything else, okay? Now, what are we going to do? The first thing I would want to do is reposition these. So if I wanted to start off with some detailed shots of dresses and everything else, I'd be moving those in, but we haven't even got to that card. But so for now, let's just say that these images here of the mum and the bridesmaid on the bed are the dress shots. I'll move these up, so just kind of dragging them up to here, put them in the first place, if that's where I want to start, how they're kind of going to be looked. If I wanted the kind of the shoes being put on before we did actually the shots with the bridesmaids on the bed, and so on and so on. So I can reorder these in whatever place that I want them to be. Once they're reordered, then the next point would be to rename them all. Okay, so again, I would just make sure that everything is in the place. As I said, we'll reiterate this tomorrow, just so you kind of get a good idea again. But so, let's say we finish the edit. We're going to Control A, and at this point is what I'm going to rename the files as. So within Bridge, all I need to go up to is Tools and go into Batch Rename. Now for me, I make it nice and easy for the client, because there's going to be less than 1,000 images. I can keep to 3 digits, so I'm just going to go to 001, and then I'm going to put an underscore in, as you can see here, and then the next thing would be just the bride and groom, so it'd be Lisa and Jeremy, so it's just LJ, and that would then actually be followed on with their 08 2314, which is the date of their wedding itself. That has a unique name for that wedding then. And what we tell the bride and grooms is all we're interested in is the first 3 digits. I try and make it as nice and easy for the clients as we can. As you just see here, actually just gives us all those kind of things there. It's quick. It's quickly done. The next thing I need to do is just actually start off with my metadata then before we start to process or color the files, I should say. I'm just going to go into Tools. I'm going to replace my metadata here. I'm going to click onto the Mark Cleghorn wedding. And at this stage, in my file properties, when that's done, it'll take a little bit of while when we're working on the full wedding. It won't take it too long with just over 300 images. If I kind of click onto the one photograph here and I go onto the core information, you can see down in the right-hand side here in my IPTC core, I've got my name, the creator, what I am, my address, and also the copyright information. That's absolutely key to make sure that you're putting your metadata into your images more than ever before. Now you can see there's a wrong date on this, so I'm just going to go to, first of all, Tools. I'm going to edit the metadata template there for a minute, and I'm just going to go down here and then just change that to 2014. Now all I'm going to do is, in fact, Control A, Tools, replace metadata with Mark Cleghorn wedding, and now that will update itself to the copyright 2014 in time. So it'll kind of just change it across when it's done. I'm sorry that we kind of run out there of time a little bit more, but as I said, the first 5 minutes tomorrow morning, tomorrow lunchtime, we'll kind of go through the edit, the moving images and everything else before we get into the colorization. Right, Jay, questions to finish off with?
I have answered most of them as we go, but why do you do the metadata and what is it used for?
Metadata builds the information into the file, so wherever that photograph goes, that metadata is in it. It's a part of that file. So if I make sure that that is a part of my workflow in everything that I'm doing, if an image ever happened to appear anywhere, I can actually prove that that image is mine. So if they've stripped the data out, then obviously I can prove again that there's a misuse of copyright going on there as well with it. So again, it's a standardized part of my workflow. Brilliant. So again, fingers crossed, you've got a lot of that today. As I said, we'll kind of finish off tomorrow lunchtime as we start by kind of just looking at the other images and how we merge them all together, as well as actually just going through the renaming process once more. I promise you on that with it. So that's it. Hope that you've enjoyed today. Remember, as far as the kind of the procedure is concerned, it's download, first edit, then second edit, rearrange, rename, and then obviously look at the metadata as the kind of final part with it. We're launching Business Live for next year, which is basically free to Photographer Academy members. So as long as you're a business member, you get that for free. It's all based on business through the Mark Cleghorn site. If you're not a member of the Photographer Academy as a business member and you want to actually take part in that, you can actually go ahead and actually book the first one, in fact, for $9.99 with myself. And as far as the year, if you want to book the whole year, it's £200. However, remember, if you join at the Academy Business level, which is, I think Jay's got a code for 99 quid for today, then it's saving you a lot more money anyway. Hand it over to you, Jay. Thanks, everybody.
That's all of it for today. Just to remind you all again that you can follow us on Facebook, and that's facebook.com/The Photographer Academy. Thank you all for joining us. See you all again this time tomorrow. Bye now.